Networks bringing you our regional training event, and so I just want to thank everyone is you getting I know getting the notifications starting to jump on. We've got a great night tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got two great speakers that are going to be sharing a lot of wisdom and knowledge with you guys. And I just get to facilitate it. I know you guys get to hear enough of me as it is, and just excited for you guys to be here. So tonight I've got Don Lukowitz and also Rob King with us tonight. And so we're going to be starting with Don. So Don, good evening. Don comes all the way from our Plant City chapter, and yes, we do have a Master Networks chapter up in Plant City. And so, anyhow, I want to share a little bit about Don, and then I'm going to turn it over to her. Also, if you've got questions, just put them in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring that. So if you got a question for Don or for Rob when he's in there, put them in the chat. I'll do my best to share those questions with those guys and get those answered as well. And so Dawn, as I said, Dawn is the president of our Plant City Master Networks chapter. She's a former dual sports, collegiate sport athlete. What sports, Dawn? What did you play?
I played basketball and lacrosse.
Basketball and lacrosse, and also a prior Army spouse. So that's tough. I know that. Dawn's also the owner of Epic Redemption Coaching, and she is the co-founder of the Clear Planner. So shout out to the Clear Planner. If you guys haven't got one of these, okay, contact Dawn and get one. Okay. And she's a trainer. She's a speaker, coach. She helps her clients develop confidence in order to take the courageous steps in order to see breakthroughs in their life, right? We're all about that. She helps her clients transform their mind and their body so they can create the space necessary for the important positive shifts that make every day better than the last. So without further ado, Dawn, I'm going to turn it over to you and take it away.
Okay, I'm really excited to share with you, and I'm excited that there is a timer on the screen so that I don't go too long. Bill and I were talking beforehand. We get really excited when we talk about stuff we're passionate about. And tonight I'm talking about the one thing that you can do that's going to increase your chances of reaching your goals by 42%. Now, according to research, less than 3% of Americans actually write down their goals, and less than 1% review them. So if you're doing that, you are in the minority. Brian Tracy wanted to dig a little bit deeper and figure out why is it that more people aren't writing down their goals. And he had like 5 overarching reasons. The first is we're not serious about them. Bill mentioned I was a military spouse and I wasn't working a business and I didn't see and understand any kind of need for goal setting. So it wasn't something I was serious about. It wasn't something I was doing when I wasn't in the business world. And I got really complacent. And I found myself just not growing. And setting goals helps you grow. And when you're not growing, we're dying, right? Mm-hmm. And so I got in this place of complacency. And I think that's where a lot of people are, especially when they're not specifically focused on this entrepreneurial mindset and this mindset of growing businesses. We kind of forget about growing in the other areas of our life. The second reason was not understanding the importance of that. And that's where I was. I didn't see a need for goal setting. So it wasn't something that I paid any attention to. I was like, 97% of Americans who were like, I'm not going to set any resolutions because those just fail. Not figuring out a way around being successful. I just wasn't going to do it. And that's where we fall into this trap of that complacency, that not living our best life. The third reason is we just don't know how. I discovered this as my partner and I were creating and developing the Clear Planner. We were both very driven high school athletes looking to achieve college scholarships. We both wanted to play ball in school, and we had a very serious focus, very specific goal in mind, did all the things you're supposed to do around reaching that goal, but we didn't know that's what we were doing. Nobody ever actually taught the art of goal setting. And years later, we connected because we were both doing a lot of personal development, and we figured out, oh, this is what we did a million years ago when we were trying to get to college. Why does nobody teach this at a younger age? So people just don't understand how to set goals. There's that fear of rejection, that fear of when you tell somebody around you that there's something you want to do, they, for whatever reason, you're afraid of what they're going to say, probably because people are really negative and they're not as supportive as they should be when it comes to the things that you aspire to do and be. And then, of course, there's always that fear of failure. I've been there a million times. You don't want to write it down, because if you don't write it down, you can't fail. And that's where I was for so many years. So last year, I sat down beginning of December. Facebook reminded me exactly when it was. And I sat down and I started to set my goals for 2021, right? 2021 was everybody's big year coming off of COVID, right? And as I sat down and I was starting to write out my goals, I reviewed where I was from the previous year. And as I looked at them, something was very apparent. And it was, I forgot about a lot of them. I hadn't looked at them. I was so far from reaching them that there was no like end of the year, couple week push in any way. Then I looked back at the previous couple years. And the next thing I noticed that was really frightening is that I set the same goals for 4 years in a row. 4 years in a row, I set the exact same goals for my business. And not only did I not achieve them 4 years in a row, but I was no closer to achieving them on year 4 as I was in year 1. That made me take a really good hard look. Where was I? What was I doing wrong, or what was I not doing? And this is really important. What I took away from that. First thing, they were not my goals. I might have written them down, but they weren't the goals that I cared about. They weren't the goals that were driving me and pushing me. Sometimes they were the industry standard goals, right? You're in a business and there's those certain goals that are those benchmarks that are kind of placed on you. I was in a multi-level marketing business, and one of my goals was a promotion goal that everybody, that's the goal you're supposed to have, but I didn't care about it, right? I set this big financial goal. Well, I wasn't super tied to it because at the time I was married, didn't have any kids. My husband was retired military. He was working a good job. So I wasn't really driven by that financial piece, but everybody has to have a financial goal. So I wrote it down. I also noticed that some of those goals that I wrote down were the goals that my friends wrote down that sounded really good. So I said, well, that should be my goal too. So I think it's really important when you sit down and you review where you've been and you review where you're going, it's got to be personal to you. It's got to be your goals, and mine weren't. The second thing was the goals that I was putting down for myself were so far out there. We hear about, setting those big, hairy, audacious goals. We say, set that target really far because, as you strive to get it, you're going to get farther than if you set a smaller goal. For me, that didn't work. And I think for a lot of people that didn't work. My goals were so far removed from where I was at the time that it was as though I had already failed. It was as though I hadn't even written them down because they were so far from realistic to the life I was living at that point in time. I wasn't ready for that. Now, a friend of mine, she's the complete opposite. She sets these big, ridiculous goals and she doesn't hit them, but man, she gets a lot higher and farther than she would have. And so as you sit down and you're looking at your goals, if you're one of those people that needs to be a little more dialed in, I think it's okay. Now, the next piece was I didn't break those goals down, regardless of how far away from me they were or not. They weren't being broken down into smaller goals. So I wasn't seeing any progress. My friend who set the big, scary goals, she had them broken down. So she at least saw progress along the way. And when you see progress, you're motivated to keep going. Well, if you set a big goal that you can't even see, and then you have no benchmarks for progress along the way, it's as though you never set it. And that's where I was. And the last piece was I didn't ever revisit it until I sat down to rewrite my goals for the next year and rewrite the exact same goals. Again, I forgot about some of the ones that existed. How many of the goals that you set for yourself in January, maybe you were doing so much better than you thought, you need to set that bar farther. But if you're not revisiting them, you don't know it. Or again, I wasn't revisiting it. I forgot they existed, or my whole life shifted and there were new priorities for myself. So I think that's really important. So how do you start to create goals? Okay, we need, now we know all the things I did wrong. So now how do you fix that? How do you course correct? I have a booklet that I'm going to drop in the notes section or in the comments after. It's also an exercise that's right in front of in the beginning of the Clear Planner. And one of the things that we have people do, my partner Chris and I, we talk about goal setting and we say just brainstorm, dump everything on paper, right? In the clear planner, in the handout that I'm going to drop in the comments, there's a list of 20. You don't need to do 20. You can set a timer, but brainstorm all those things that you want, all those things that you want to do. I used to brainstorm ideas, and the stuff that I really cared about never made its way into my goals. It was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I didn't know how to fit it into my goals. So brainstorm it and then leave it. Let it set for a day. Let it set for an hour, however long, but walk away from it and then come back. Brainstorm everything from health, relationships, finances. Make sure you're looking at spiritual life, all of the different things that you want to be able to be working towards. The next thing, once you have that list, prioritize. It's important to go through and prioritize what's most important and compelling to you for the long term, right? You might be just sitting down to do your goals for 2022, but what's going to get you closer to where you want to be long term? And what goals can you clump together? There's a lot of times there's things that you want, but you might have that one big goal that's going to tie a lot of them together, or the steps that you're going to take to get to that big goal are going to help you achieve some of the other goals along the way. You want to make sure they're smart. If you have been around Master Networks, if you have been around business for a while, SMART goals are not anything new. But as a review, we want to make sure that your goals are specific. They're measurable, they're attainable, they're realistic, and they're time-bound. Okay, again, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Those were, I wasn't being realistic and attainable in some of the goals that I was setting based on the work that I was willing to do for them, based on where I was at that point in time. And so it's really important as you set the goals that they're smart. Now, the big, most important thing, the secret. There's a psychology professor at Dominican University in California. She led a study on goal setting with nearly 270 participants. The results of this study were that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. Simple as that. If you write them down, you are right there, 42% more likely to achieve them. Now, this actually makes a lot of sense. It's not just a hokey kind of thing. I mean, it's kind of hokey for my title of the presentation. But it makes sense because when you write your goals down, it forces you to get clear on what you want. It forces you to really examine what that is. And when you do that, your brain automatically is starting to figure out ways to get there. Subconsciously, by getting clear, you're already working towards that goal even before you've taken any steps. It's forcing you to ask the questions and think about where you are. It's forcing you to start to brainstorm a plan of attack just by writing it down. It's also there's something special about that pen to paper and that connection between writing and your brain. Again, that's going to force you in that direction. But it's not magic. And this is kind of the part that I used to think that like I was that 3%. It's not magic if you don't actually now do anything. Sure, it's fantastic. Subconsciously, my brain is working towards it. We know that when you put things out there, the law of attraction is real. You will start to see people that can help you get closer to that goal. Things will start to show up that you're noticing that will help you get closer. But if you don't actually take the steps forward, you're not going to get there. This is where, as I was sitting down to write my goals that are still not written for 2022, I was starting to struggle a little because we want to set our goal, but sometimes we don't always know what that is. For example, I know I want to start a podcast again, but I don't know what my goal with that podcast is. It's not just to start it. So I think it's okay just to write podcast right now as I start to figure out and get clear, right? I don't exactly know yet how many downloads do I want, or how many followers, or whose hands is it going to be in, right? That would be getting really specific. It's okay when I know that's something I want to do to just start there. Then as I get clearer on what that looks like, start writing down the steps to get there. Your steps to get somewhere may be as simple as talk to somebody that's done it. When my buddy and I sat down a year ago this month to start to put the clear planner together, I said, I know I want to create a planner and publish it and get it in hands. I didn't know what that meant. I just knew I wanted to publish a planner. So my first action step was call Chris, because he's published something before, and ask him, who does he know? What does he know? And then I started filling in the steps along the way. So example, because I'm in health and fitness, right? saying that you want to lose weight, that's kind of that's a good goal, right? But we know it's not smart. We know that you need more behind it. We know that you need to lay out that timeline, make sure that it's something that's actually realistic and attainable. So to make it smarter, it might be that I want to lose 30 pounds by July 1st. Okay. So now what am I going to do that? That might be the goal, but what are the steps that I'm going to break it down? It might be hiring a coach. It might be saying that I'm going to work out 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. It might be saying I'm going to drink, 68 ounces of water a day. It might be finding an accountability partner, but whatever those steps are that are going to help me get to that goal, I need to then write it down. I need to break it down so that there's something that I can be working towards. I need to put a timeline on it. I can't just say I'm going to lose weight this year, because guess what? I can wait until December and lose weight. So I need it to be something that's a little bit more urgent, something that's I'm a little bit more tied to. Now, the key with these goals, and where I was lacking when I set my goals the last couple years, I was picking other people's goals that I wasn't connected to. It's really important that you get clear, not just on the goals that you want, but why you want those goals. If you don't have a really clear why that is compelling to you, that is going to push you to do work when it's hard, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to achieve it. You need to have a really deep reason. So why would I want to lose 30 pounds by July 1st? I want to lose 30 pounds by July 1st so that I can ride the roller coaster with my kid when I go to Disney. My clients that come up with that as a goal, guess who's a lot more likely to achieve their goal? Mm-hmm. The one that has that really strong reason. Yeah, it's nice to say I want to lose weight to, it's healthy. Okay, but how many of us really care about our health? What are we doing to our bodies, right? It's got to be something that you're tied to. It's got to be something that matters to you. And if you want to take your goals even a step further than that, when you say, I will lose 30 pounds by July 1st, and then list what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. When you write your goals out that way, when you're tied to them, when they're smart, when you're writing it down, when you're revisiting it, when you're breaking it down, you're going to be a lot more likely to achieve them. And it's going to be so much more satisfying as you work your way towards them. Now, there's a lot of people that will tell you set 1 year, 5 year, 10-year goals. I was reading a book and they're like, your 40-year goals. Okay. I'm good with my 1 and 5 year right now. However far out, you also want to reverse engineer that. You want to look at the things you can be doing now that are getting you one step closer to that goal. That's where the magic is going to happen. And you need to be flexible. I think so many times we hear, don't change the target, change your actions. Well, depending on where you're at, that's really good advice. Change your actions toward it. But if something changes, if your priorities change, if what you're doing changes and that goal needs to be revisited and changed, then you got to do it. Don't keep banging your head to a goal that doesn't matter to you anymore, that's not going to get you closer to what you really want in life. And I think that's really important. Hopefully that kind of helps with a little bit of perspective, with some new thoughts on goal setting. I know for me, the biggest aha moments were when I sat down last year and realized I was setting the same goals 4 years in a row and I was no closer to achieving them. And yeah, that rocked me to my core. And my goals that I set this past year, I am like this close to hitting all of them right now.
Yeah. And I think Dawn too, and too, I'm sitting here writing notes because you can never, the issue is we make it harder than what it needs to be. Right. And so, so I'm just going to pop this up, Dawn. This is a question. So, Joni had, she's like, do you do the 1-3-5 or do you do a breakdown of how to attain the goal? I think that's what holds me up.
I love it. I love the concept of the 1-3-5. We just taught the 1-3-5 at Master Networks. I think it's such a great picture and an overview. The way I've actually been doing goals is just because I happen to have my planner, and I'm going to include it in the handout that I have. Of course, you're going to kind of be able to see some of my writing, but I break down my goal, then I have my why, and then I break it down into some basic action steps. For my personal goals, I haven't been using the 1-3-5. For my longer term business goals, I'm going to set that out and lay that into my plan for the year.
Gotcha. And I think the key of it is really whatever tool that you use, right? So whether that's the 1-3-5, whether that's again, I'm not a paid endorser for this clear planner, but I just love it. So anyhow, it's one of those deals is getting it down on paper. I think the key thing of, of what I get from what, you've shared, Don, in the last, 20 minutes is take it from here and get it to here. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also having, and how, again, and you touched on it a little bit, but I think what we forget is how really important is the why behind the goals.
It is everything. One of the goals that I had set in December was a financial goal. I did set a financial goal. And part of the reason was I wanted to be able to support myself if I ever needed to. And the reason behind that was I needed that for me. I had been working, I had been supporting myself, got married, and had been married for so many years that I didn't need to. Mm-hmm. Little did I know, a couple weeks later, I was going to snap and decide that I didn't want to be married anymore. And I asked my husband at the time for divorce. And then suddenly my financial goal became very, very real. Mm-hmm. I had to live with my parents for a short time. When you're 42 years old, you do not want to live with your parents very long. And suddenly that financial goal got really real and a lot of action started taking place. Had I not been in the situation I was, if I wasn't more tied and connected to that goal, I wouldn't have come anywhere close to achieving what I did in the last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's that piece of it. And the other thing, what I love, as I was writing, notes on this is making sure that they're your own goals, right? Not what you think somebody you're like, well, that's a good goal for them. Maybe I should do that. Right. Because, kind of speak on that a little bit about how that doesn't work. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing that. My best friend at the time is so driven. She's a Master Networks member in New York. And she's one of the most driven, incredible women I've ever met. And she's a very high achiever. And, she set these incredible goals. Well, she's got different background. She's coming from a different place. Her why is very different than mine. And so trying to set a goal that was something that she set, or even coming close to something that she set, it didn't make sense, right? Her background was in she was a VP of finance and accounting. So her money goals were very different looking. She had kids. I didn't. And so trying to set somebody else's goal when you're coming from different places with different whys, they're just not going to work and they're not going to make any sense.
Yeah. And it's good. And it's so, again, I would go back to, we make it harder. And the thing about, the SMART goals, and we hear that, all the time, where I think sometimes we're like, oh yeah, we get it. But really being clear when you whether that, making money, where it's like, hey, I want to make, more money next year. It's like, okay, well, $1 could be more money than you made last year, possibly. Right. So it's in reverse engineering that. So if I'm going to, like what you talked about is losing 30 pounds, by July, then, where are you today? If it's, the 14th of December, what does that look like per month, per week? Right. And that's what you talk about, chunking the goal down, right, into more manageable pieces.
Right. Yeah. Because then you see progress. And when you see progress, that's where motivation comes. Motivation happens when you take action, right? Yeah. It's not the other way around. You don't take action because you're motivated. You gain motivation and traction from taking action. And when you take that action and you see those small improvements along the way, that's where you keep going, where you see the fruit of your labor. We are such an impatient society. We want everything now. But by chunking it down, it gives us a little bit more of that now than if you're looking at that goal far off. The other thing is actually taking the time to do it. Mm-hmm. Setting aside time. I know people that go away for, a weekend and plan their goals, or they sit down and they block off half a day to do their goals. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it does take a lot of thought. And I don't always like to do the thinking. It gets a little bit hard for me. Mm-hmm. And so it's just sitting down and really focusing and doing it. And it makes all the difference in the world once you get it down on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like you. I like the action piece. I don't like the setting down and getting it out there, because I constantly, want to be doing it. But the key of it is getting it down. And then what you said too, is sometimes you refine those, right? You may need to change a goal where it's like, hey, I'm crushing this. Mm-hmm. It's not, now I need to, to readjust. They're not written in stone, right, Don?
Yeah, you need to be adaptable and you need to change. The financial goal that I initially set, well, I hadn't lived alone and I hadn't had to support myself in I don't know how many years. I also didn't know what, finances were going to look like in the divorce. So, I may have had to change those numbers once I had a better understanding of where I was. But just because you don't know the full picture doesn't mean you don't set the goal. Just because I don't know what I want to do or where I want a podcast to go, I know it's a goal of mine. So I'm going to write it down. And then I'm going to refine it as I go, and I'm going to revisit and see what that looks like. And maybe that's something that isn't where my focus needs to be. It's not going to get me closer to some of the other things I want. So I'm down, and I'm going to start to figure out those pieces and then adjust as I go.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, as we're listening to that, just do it. And don't worry about, the mechanism of what it is, but get it on paper. Like, I know what you talk about, like in the planner, it's like you have the 20 things, you can dump those out there. It may only be 5 or 6 or 10, whatever, or it may be 100, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Is get it out of here, get it onto the paper, and then start asking yourself. What I do is, why, if I want to make X or do X, why do I want to do that? What is it about that? But in going, like you said, Don, is just, going a little bit deeper in it, getting really clear, because when you're up against it, just losing the weight isn't enough. It's got to be like, what's the why? It's because I want to, be healthy so I can, play and spend time with my grandkids, or, whatever that is, get it into the heart or get it to the emotion. And that's what I love. So
I ask my clients to pretend that there's a 3-year-old standing next to them as they're writing down their why, right? And they write it down, and then the 3-year-old says, but why? And you got to answer. And then you give them an answer, and then they say, but why?
Yeah.
I don't have kids, but I remember my niece and nephew asking, well, why?
Yeah.
And you keep writing why until you can't write anymore, and then you have it.
Yeah, that's great. I've got young grandkids, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, why? Why can't we? Why can't we? Why, all those things. And so asking yourself,
get deep enough, because otherwise you can write a surface answer. But I wrote surface answers for 4 years and didn't get me very far.
Yep, exactly. And it shifts. And the other thing, the bonus thing too on it is write it down and then share it with other people. Right? To share other people, and the people that are pulling for you is getting around the right people that support your goals and want to see you succeed. That's one of the other things I know for me was a bit of game changer in my life is, because you share it with someone, they're like, hey, how's that working? Hey, how are you doing on the weight? It's like, oh man, they're paying attention. I got to get my butt up and go to the gym, or I'm not going to eat those French fries. Right. I mean, so it's, those kind of things. It's accountability. This is too, and if you don't have a coach, get a coach. If you right now don't think you can afford a coach, get an accountability partner, right? That there's so much power in all of that.
Well, and that's where the Master Networks family has been so huge in all of my goals over the last, you put it out there and somebody knows somebody, or somebody knows a trick, or somebody knows a course, or somebody knows. Every time you talk about what you're doing, you're getting another step closer, and you're attracting all those pieces that you need. And you have those people that are there rooting for you every step of the way, and asking questions that you didn't think about. You're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Let me
right. Yeah, exactly.
Let me add that to what I'm doing. And it's the Master Networks family has been so huge in my life over the last year, between not business referrals, but taking care of, all of my needs during my divorce. I've got my, my insurance person, my bank person, my financial plan. I mean, it's all there. And I'm so thankful for that group.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people the ROI isn't always dollars and cents, right? Sometimes the ROI is on like exactly what you're talking about. It's the support. It's those things when you need, just someone to have a conversation with, right? To encourage you to do those things. And that's what I love about it. That's the tribe that we've created, and we're continuing to create with amazing people, Don, just like you. So, hey, thank you for tonight for taking the time. Thank you for being who you are. I'm a huge fan of yours, and what you guys are doing up in Plant City, as well as growing all of that. So, hey, I'll tell you one thing about Dawn. Connect with her on Facebook. Here's the other thing: she does a dance on Mondays. She always needs songs for that. So if you're not friends with her, friend her. She's a hoot. She's amazing. Get the clear planner. I'm a freak about planners, and so I love it. It will be a game changer. So Don, thank you. I appreciate your time tonight, and we will see you soon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then we're going. So next up, I've got Rob King, and I'm going to bring him. He's sitting in our very luxurious green room here at the Master Networks Florida studios, located here in beautiful Fort Myers. And so I'm going to bring Rob in. Hey, Rob.
Hey, this is the best green room I've ever been in.
So, Rob is a member of our Cape Coral Thursday noon chapter. Yeah. And I've had an opportunity, as being now part of the region and meeting different people. Actually, Rob and we spent an evening actually bowling. We got together, a group of us, a couple of chapters, and did some bowling. I don't think I'm going to make it on the tour, Rob. So anyhow, but him and I got into a conversation and just talking about like a lot of things. And one of the things I started to talk to Rob about, and what I wanted him to speak about tonight, is really the power, of, we start talking about visualization, right? Seeing the life of what we want. And, one of the things, Rob, and I know you're going to speak about that, but, people are like, visualization or whatever, that's kind of, hokey, does it really work? And I know, and this, a lot of athletes, I mean, a ton. Tom Brady, one of those. I mean,
I'll be talking about a lot about that tonight.
Right, yeah, a lot about that. So I'm not gonna ruin it for everybody. But the key of it is, I want you to to listen to Rob and understand this, where it's just like there's tons of power in this. When I started doing this several years ago, seeing things, it's definitely a game changer. And so, hey, just a little bit about Rob is Rob's as a clinical hypnotherapist, helping clients with beliefs and overcoming the past. Rob's originally, shocker, it's not from Fort Myers. No one is. Originally from a small town in central New York on Lake Ontario. And he moved to South Florida in 1991. So Rob, probably, what is that, 30 years now? You got to be probably now just a local. And then he worked prior to, getting into hypnosis in the cardiovascular disease world for many years. Became disenfranchised with that in the healthcare world, which I get that. And then fortunately he found hypnosis. And so outside of spending time, with his clients and building his practice there, he is a professional Uber driver for his daughter's activities. So it's so without further ado, hey, Rob, I'm going to turn it over to you. And thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. So a lot of people do get a little concerned when they hear the word visualization, and they're not really sure where to go with it. But if we take Dawn, great job, by the way. If we take Dawn's example of needing to lose 30 pounds by July, and we start to talk about how we could use visualization for that, a little bit later here, we're going to talk about how wonderful and resourceful visualization is in some of the studies, and how it's shown to be so effective. But if you start to visualize yourself in July riding a roller coaster, 30 pounds lighter, we have to think about all of the different things that go along with that, including the movement of the roller coaster or the heat in July in Florida. And if we can picture that right now, myself being 30 pounds lighter and having that experience and starting to put all of the different pieces of that experience together, maybe the smell of the food at the theme park, the other sounds that you may hear, the shaking of your body as you're going through the roller coaster, and you start to really play that out within your imagination, now all of a sudden your body starts to believe that you are exactly that person that you want to be. And the effectiveness of that has been off the charts, really. So I do have a little PowerPoint here. Let me see if I can share the screen. All right. Are we on?
We are not. Oh, wait, hang on a second, Rob. Let me do this. I think there we go.
Okay. All right. So obviously a basic picture of me to start this off. Learning the power, not just for 2022, but really for the rest of your life, I'd like to teach you what exactly visualization is, a technique for use, how to apply it and when, and how to really incorporate it into everyday life and make it work for you. We can run through these things fairly quickly, and this can be one of the more useful tools you have in your everyday life that doesn't really mess with anything else, to be quite honest with you. It can just kind of work right in, and you can see benefits very quickly. So visualization in my world is just a multisensory imagination or a mental rehearsal. And we use all the different senses that we have in our body, our sense of vision, and we see pictures inside of our mind regularly. Our auditory sense, hearing, kinesthetic, how we feel, the olfactory, so any certain smells that might be associated, or even taste, gustatory. All these senses can apply more to our imagination and give us more of a feeling and an actual experience. The brain doesn't really know the difference between an experience and reality. Oprah Winfrey, you may have heard of. She has accomplished a thing or two in her life. Says anything you can imagine, you can create. And she's been very prolific in her promotion of visualizations, having many shows on it over the course of her time. Even parts in her magazine were about it. But the reality is she's not the only person who's used this for success. And I have a little list here of just a couple. Michael Jordan, before every basketball game he played, his coach, Phil Jackson, would sit in the locker room before the game and have a guided visualization of how the game was going to go. Michael Jordan would also, on his own, visualize himself making the winning shot over and over and over again. And he did make one or two of those in his life. Muhammad Ali, very big in visualizations. Not only that, he was very crafty with his words. If you would consider floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee, that paints a really strong picture. He's feeling those words as well as saying them. So he visualized himself as being the greatest boxer in the world. And over again, he worked to prove that and show that to himself. Then we have Steve Jobs, goes without saying. Thomas Edison used trance and visualization work for a lot of things. That brings me to a couple of the reasons why we may use it. But before that, I want to talk about research studies. The gentleman in the University of Chicago, Dr. Judd Basato, he's a sports psychologist. This is a pretty interesting study. He took 3 separate groups of kids in the student body and wanted to figure out how well visualizations would work. And he used foul shots. He took the first group of children and he said, well, kids, I guess they're in college. He said, okay, I want you to shoot an hour's worth of foul shots a day. He took the second group and he said, I want you to visualize shooting an hour's worth of foul shot in a day. And the last group, he said, I don't want you to do anything. That's the control group. Now I want to look at these numbers to make sure I get them correct. But the first group found that they were able to, wrong button. They were able to increase their ability to make foul shots by 24% by shooting 1 hour every day for a month. And that's a good percentage to increase. The second group, which I'll get back to in a second, the third group did nothing, got no accomplishment. Now, the second group sat around for an hour and created a foul shot in their brain. They felt what it was like to be in the gym. They felt the ball in their hand, the movement of taking the shot, feeling the ball roll off their fingers, and then watching the ball go through the hoop. So the second group ended up only 1 percentage point behind the group that actually did the foul shots for 1 hour a day for a month. So the second group spent an hour a day just thinking about it and increased their ability to make foul shots by 23%, which is a pretty amazing thing if you really think about it. The power of your mind to be able to control your body without movement and get muscle memory, which is basically what a foul shot is. I've played a lot of basketball. To be able to manage muscle memory with just the power of the mind. We have another study by Gong Yu. I'm pretty sure I'm screwing his name up, but he worked his direction more towards physical therapy. And they were talking about finger adduction. So you're bending your finger and the strength of your finger. And people were struggling to get their use back. And they used, again, one group using the normal exercises, another group using just mental exercises. And they found that the group using the normal exercises after a month had a 40% improvement. The group using only the mental exercises after a month had a 34% improvement, which again is pretty significant, only using your brain. So the power of the mind and the connection between the mind and the body is overly significant, and it's shown many times. These are just a couple of studies, but when we get to hypnosis, one of the considered the greatest hypnotist ever, a gentleman named Milton Erickson, who is a psychotherapist, a doctor of psychotherapy, and he had polio as a child. He was born in the early 1900s. I think he died in 1980. Had polio as a child and was basically in bed. Wasn't able to move, wasn't able to speak. And he laid there as a 10-year-old and he watched the people around him interact. He started to really pay attention to their body language, noticed that they were moving in different ways, when they were feeling different things. And he started to put together how the mind and the body spoke to each other. So as he's laying there in bed, he started to visualize himself moving his feet. Slowly, after the course of a lot of time, he was able to start moving his feet. And as he laid there and said, wow, this is pretty neat, he said, I want to see if I can visualize myself to be able to speak again. So spent his time, spent all of his efforts. He had nothing else to do and learned how to speak again. So nobody really could believe that. They looked back on it. This gentleman moved on with polio and was able to move around a little bit and speak a little bit. So they just chalked it up as, oh, wow, that's great. But the power of somebody's mind who is fighting a disease in that scenario really shows what we can do. So we have a bunch of other studies within cancer, long-term chronic illness, things of that nature. If we look at this wonderful way that we can manage our future, we can start to use these things for good. So how do we really do this? We take a nice, comfortable place. We get ourselves in a place that we can find peace. We get ourselves in a place where we're not going to be interrupted. And I know that can be a challenge sometimes. We pick that specific goal. We go back to Dawn's goal setting and we look at all of the things we've written down in her wonderful booklet. And we say, okay, now this is a goal that I can achieve. Close your eyes and settle in and start to consider the achievement. As you're achieving the goal. Notice how you feel. Notice all of the things around you, getting over to visualizations, the actual visual portion of your thought memory process, adding in anything you may hear when you're succeeding at your goal. Notice how you feel as you succeed at your goal. Notice if there's any different smells or tastes as you succeed at your goal. And what starts to happen after your body starts to comprehend these things, you start to become that person that you're trying to be. So you're actively that person, which is a huge thing. Your brain doesn't really know the difference between fantasy and reality at this point. Everything we have that comes in is processed, including what we see and what we hear. The only thing on our little section of actual senses that's not processed is our olfactory sense, the sense of smell. That has got a direct course to the brain. That's one of the reasons that the COVID challenge started to go into their nasal passages and get into their brain, because the olfactory has a direct line to the brain. Everything else is multiplied many times by our different filters and perceptions that we have already encased in us. So when we see it inside, as we live through it right now, we think that this is our reality. When we're able to create a new reality in the future, then we can be a different person and have different things. It sounds kind of like a fantasy to begin with, but when we go back to these people here, it's kind of hard to say that there's nothing to this. And this is just a small list of people who have done this. As you said earlier, Tom Brady, you just saw another win from him last night in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those things come with a lot of hard work, effort. He has the physical capabilities of doing it. However, his real it factor has to be something else. There's a lot of people that have the capabilities of making those throws, but there's not a lot of people who over and over again make the right throw at the right time to win the game. Or in Michael Jordan's case, the right shot at the right time. Or Tiger Woods, the amazing shot but from behind 4 trees and over an alligator, because he would do things like that. Jack Nicholson one time said he never took a golf shot without imagining where it was going to land and how it was going to land. Well, those are pretty powerful things from people who have accomplished. But what do we get out of the benefits? You can see extra focus, being able to really narrow down. Let's just say you would like to be better at sales calls and you are uncomfortable cold calling. So now before you do it, you sit in your chair and you start to breathe deeply and you start to get in your mind how well these cold calls are going to go. And you start to build up this, because on your goal list is do more cold calls. So now you start to build up this confidence inside yourself. Your posture starts to change. All of these things just because of your mental processes, of the thoughts that you're giving yourself. So we've enhanced your focus right now. Now you can sit down and make your calls. We've reduced your stress because you feel more confident in doing it. And as you get a little bit better, you can find creative solutions through things. So you can say, well, this isn't working when I do this. In my imagination, without anything lost, how else could I do this? So now you start running through different game plans of life. You could support and should support with a positive outlook on everything you do. It allows you to reach those goals. And this is probably the most important one to me. It boosts emotional stability and resilience. So now if we've rehearsed these things over and over again in our minds, we get to have a ability to solve the problems if something comes up. So we're not quite as caught off guard when something doesn't work the way we want it to. And life happens. So let's be realistic. There's speed bumps in almost everything we do. But if we've had a dry run prior to going through this, then all of a sudden that speed bump isn't quite as challenging because we may already have a solution for it. We can utilize these things to boost your memory, and boosting immunity for some may sound like a stretch, but for me, it's one of the more important things here. When we start to do these things, we regulate our systems and we relax ourselves more. And that in tune improves our natural immunities by increasing the feel-good chemicals in our body and decreasing those stress hormones. And that takes us to the next one, is relieving those depressive feelings. So we start to feel bad sometimes because we're not sure what direction we're going to go. Oftentimes the depressive feelings can come from inactivity or inaction. So if we can start to use visualizations about our activities and actions and how it's going to lead us in a positive direction, now all of a sudden we start to shift those feelings. We can use this also to reduce pain. It supports benefits in motivation, most definitely. As Dawn had said earlier, activity really spurs motivation. So the way I see the world and what's been proven to me over and over again is, as we see things in our mind doesn't really know the difference if it's real or not. So if I am having a strong visualization of an action or an activity, then my body thinks I've done it, which is kind of interesting. The other side of it is you can boost sales and increase your business by going through each and every step of the process and painting it in a positive light, strongly pushing yourself through these things and making them as large as life, basically. So they feel real. The big part of this is the routine and consistency of it all. So to stay consistent and to fit this into the routine. And how do you do that? Because we have a really busy life. I use visualizations multiple times through the day. I use it with every single client. I call it future pacing with my clients, because if they're trying to get over a challenge, I want them to see in the future how that challenge has changed and how they've changed as a result of the work that they're doing, and then feel those changes as if they're already that person that they want to be. So how do we do that in our daily life? I've worked visualizations in very comfortably into my life by doing it less than 5 minutes a day, and I've seen massive changes with it. Each and every night before I go to bed, I have the next day fairly planned. I have a good idea what's going to happen tomorrow. So I settle in and I walk through my day and I paint the picture as perfectly as I can for myself, each and every step. I look at each step. If there's a challenge in the day, I see the challenge. I address the challenge and I make it work for me within my visualization. I do that before I go to sleep at night. I wake up the next morning and I do the same thing for the same day. So now I actively have 2 dry runs through my day. Seldom do things come up that I didn't really I don't want to say already seen coming, but you can start to recognize things that may be a challenge in your day and be more proactive about managing them. So in visualizing my days to come, the night before I go to sleep, I'll do this for tomorrow. I'll wake up tomorrow morning. I'll do the same thing. And it's almost changed my life on its own. Just that one thing. So that brings me to pretty much everything we could have to talk about.
Yeah.
My time went.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. Wow. I mean, there's so much really, to unpack on that, because, and I know for me, when I first heard about visualization, it was one of those things where I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take.
Yep.
Are you done? You're done with this?
Yeah, I'm done with it. I can't. I try to kick it off. I can't kick it off.
I can get rid of it.
Right.
Is that it was for me? It was like this thing where like, all right, really? Or it was going to be some like long drawn out process, right? So I'm going to have to go into a dark room and I'm going to have to sit in there, and do all of that. And what I love what you said is that it's, like with you're 5 minutes before. I know my visualization is similar to that, right? It's only a few minutes where I'm looking at the day and what I, and again, right? If you're not taking notes, you should be. Everybody that's, that's watching this is, paint the picture, right? Paint the picture of the day that you want, right?
Yes, absolutely. There are multiple ways to work visualizations. I do that. That's more of a macro for the day. But if there are any challenges or anything you would like to really pursue specifically, you can do that over each individual situation, each relationship, and start to paint those pictures exactly how you'd like them to paint.
So Joni's question is, I hear focus on what you want, not what you don't. And I suppose that's kind of what you're saying. Oh, wait, that's not her question. Where was her? Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. There was a lot of chat, so it was good. Visualization seems to go hand in hand with the power of positive thinking. How do you believe it when you visualize it?
So visualization does go with positive thinking, most definitely. How do you believe? So most things, like in the goal setting, have to be realistic. So if I'm believing that tomorrow I'm going to make $1 million, I probably don't have those processes in tow right now. Probably, you never know. I mean, this could be a good time for me here. So it has to be belief oriented. When you have challenges with belief on something larger that, let's just say I'm not worthy of having that in my business, now all of a sudden we work into more directly the hypnosis portion of it. And I'd personally want to go towards what is really starting that belief. Where was it in childhood that we started to believe those things about us? That being said, that's not necessary. We can work through time and effort to change those beliefs on our own.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if I was really able to answer that question.
No. Yeah, no, I think it's good. So Jenna Jones says, Rob is amazing. He's worked with us for some time, and wow, what a difference. So that is good. And then
Jenna's awesome. Thank you, Jenna.
Yeah. So a lot of comments in the chat, which I love. Joni says, I think I get it because I want to be thin, I visualize it, and then I think as a thin person. So I believe as a thin person, meaning I don't scarf down pizza, ice cream, but I enjoy fresh, healthy food. Is that it?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So if you got anybody else, if you got a question, put it in, in the chat. It's good. We've got some good conversation. I mean, going on, in it. And it's just, I play golf, not well, followed Tiger Woods, his whole career. And you talk about, the one thing they always talk about him is that, it's his mental game, right? It's Tiger's, no one's stronger mentally, but really a lot of that when you talk about his mental game is really the, visualization, how he thinks, how he sees, the game. And just like we talk about, like with Jack Nicklaus is I'd heard that also as well. He pictures each shot, every shot that he made, he hits the golf ball of how that's going to, turn out. And people go, well, the pushback is, well, if it worked every time, wouldn't it all be perfect? Yeah. But yes. But the key of it is you think about and I want you to speak on that, Rob. So,
okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Nothing works every time. Nothing at all works every time.
Right.
But if you've ever heard of drug trials, you will know that every single drug trial is trialed against a placebo. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that placebo has going for it is belief. Mm-hmm. The strange thing about these drug trials is the placebo in every trial will work, not the drug, but the placebo in every trial will work for somebody.
Right.
So we need to start recognizing the power of our beliefs. They gauge it against every single medication that's on the market. The power of belief. Yeah.
Yeah. And the mind is so, it's just one of those deals where I think because a lot of the things, we look at it, we're always like looking for, the silver bullet, something, the shiny thing, the next thing. Whereas like, there's so much, power in our minds of how, because it begins in our mindset. This is something, why I have Mindset Monday, right? Is because it begins on how we think. If I think, it's the Henry Ford quote. If you think you can, if you think you can't, you're right.
You're probably right. Yeah. And they are right. It's all about that belief.
Yeah. And so it's changing, it's changing the way that we think, and the other thing is, it's also, who you surround yourself with, the people as well, of how they think. Because if you put yourself, what I find, is you put yourself in a situation where you got a lot of people that are negative thinking, that aren't, thinkers of solution. What I find is you start to believe that yourself, right? Over a period, Absolutely. Over a period of time. And it's just one of those deals where it's just so, the saying is that, we're the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And that's why it's really important, why we have to be careful, who, and it's funny because, and we get that as we get older, and, you have kids, Rob, we do, and grandkids now, because remember when we were kids, they would say, I don't want you hanging out with those people. Right. And our parents did that because they really believed that, because it's like, hey, if they're a bad element, we don't want you to become the bad element. We want you to hang around people that are good. Right. And, good is relative. I get that. But, with the different thinking.
Right.
Yeah. So it is, it's quite amazing. Tell them about the garage of tools, Rob. This is from Jenna.
The garage of tools. This is a metaphor that I use with clients sometimes, and when I talk to other people around in different places. We all, the metaphor starts like this. It's kind of a sad story. There's a family that is master mechanics, and they are very top of their profession. And the family gets in a plane and they head to Las Vegas for a wonderful conference. Everybody's all excited about it, but the sad part of the story is the plane goes down. They leave the little baby home, and the baby's well taken care of and has this beautiful house, growing up without a family, but caretakers. And each and every day, this child, as it grows up, walks in and out of the garage of master mechanics and does its normal business, goes to school, goes through life. And as the child gets a little bit older, it's walking through the garage and has a flat tire on the bike and trying to figure out how to fix this flat tire. All these tools on the walls of the garage and stuck in the cabinets, and really has no idea how to use any of these tools. So the child picks up a screwdriver and starts to work on the bike tire. And a neighbor walks by. Nice neighbor says, do you mind if I give you some advice? And the young child's like, no problem. I'd love some advice. I don't really like changing a tire. So no problem. So the neighbor walks in and looks up on the garage wall and he says, well, why aren't you using this? And the child says, well, I don't really know what that is. Well, you have this beautiful piece of equipment right here on the wall, and it's designed to change bike tires. Wow, that's great. So they took the piece of equipment off, and the neighbor was really nice to show them how to do it, and the tires changed in a second. And the kid's like, wow, I wish I would have had this. I've changed this tire 4 times, and this was so much easier. But the reality is we're all kids like that. We live in a house that we have tools all around us that we don't know how to use. And we're lucky enough sometimes to have a coach or a person come through our life to introduce us to a new tool that we have living inside of us. And when we're introduced to it, we're like, oh my gosh, it was that easy. I didn't really know what I didn't really know.
Mm-hmm.
And we live our lives like that all the time. I could get a little bit more in depth with that story, but that was kind of the short version.
No, but it's good. I mean, it's around awareness, right, Rob? Ultimately, it's what it boils down to. It's like, until I'm aware of something, I can't make the change. Right. So just like with the child, where it's like, oh, I didn't know this existed. And it's all about choice, right? Once we have awareness, then we get to make a choice on whether we're going to use the bicycle repair tool or we don't. The point of it is we get to make the choice whether we do or not, because now we know what it is because we're aware of it.
Right.
And that's the big key around, what I find in personal development is building an awareness.
And often those tools we already have.
Mm-hmm.
We may even use them in different contexts and not really understand how to apply them in the context that we're struggling with.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a lot. I mean, it was in what I love about it is like, it's not a half a day seminar, though I know all of this could be turned into goal setting. We've all done, all of that. Yeah. And thank you for making it concise, for looking at that to where this is something that all of us can do, to be honest with you, is that the 5 minutes, and it's simple as just, hey, what's the day I want my day to look like tomorrow, right? To see that. And it may be around even just like like for me, where I've done that, where it's a presentation or an event, it's me running a chapter meeting or whatever, to see that whole thing flow through, that how I feel when I'm done with it, if it goes really well, right? And I love what you talk about. How does it smell? What are the senses? What are all of that? The more real that you can bring it, and to do that, that's where I find where really the power of visualization really is.
That is the key. That inconsistency to do it and do it. We can talk about things a lot, but without action, it doesn't really serve us.
Yeah. And and this is what I love about, when we talked about doing tonight is, Dawn's piece of that, it's about the written goal and doing, those
Mm-hmm.
things. And then I love this because it dovetails into that. And especially as we're looking at now sitting here, the 15th of December, as we start looking into the next year, is that, I'm not a big resolution person. It's setting goals and to look at this and to take, and I'm going to encourage everybody that's watching this live, and then they're going to watch, obviously we'll get a lot more people watching it on replay, but to be looking at this, take this information and use this when you're setting your goals for next year. And I'm going to encourage you and challenge you to do that now. Don't wait till next year to do that. Right. So when we hit, we roll into the new year, we've got this, this, and if it's only like maybe a few goals and it's only maybe 1 minute a day on the visualization, right? It's something maybe that you build up to, but it just goes back to what Rob's saying about the consistency in writing down your goals, the consistency of, of visualization. Rob, and briefly, I just want to share, what's your thoughts like around meditation? So we talk about visualization, but what are your thoughts on meditation?
I'm kind of biased in this world. Really, visualization is a form of meditation. You're calming your senses down. You're focusing on an interior focus. It is meditation. People get really worked up in definitions of meditation and visualizations. These things are very specifically for you. If you're going to do it, figure out what works for you. I can tell you that in my experience, the better you can paint the picture, the more productive you're going to be with it. But it's really all about what works for you. All of these things are inside of us. You know, that tool on the wall for the little kid was his tool. It was always there.
Right.
So we have these inside, and we have to figure out. So when I talk to people about hypnosis, for example, I find every one of my clients a place in which in their life they go in and out of trance. And like, oh, that's what it is? Oh, I had no idea. Well, yeah, okay. So now we know. So now I can take you into trance really easily, right? Oh, yeah, okay, good. And then we're in a nice, comfortable place for change to occur. We just are, we get stuck in definitions of the people around us and what our parents have taught us. And if their parents don't know, then we're kind of stuck not knowing too, until we meet somebody else who introduces it to us.
Yeah. And that's what I love about your business, and it's funny, if you've ever visited, the Cape Thursday, Rob's, it's in his business is why not hypnosis? And basically he says, well, you tried everything else. Why not hypnosis? Right. And it's tongue in cheek, because the issue of it is like, when everything else has failed, all right, well, why not? Right. We'll do that, versus probably if we maybe would have started there. Right, Rob? I mean, it's, I know you say that, but it's because it's people look at it as like a last resort, when it really probably shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be. And if more people were doing these things on a daily basis, these small little tricks, then none of those challenges that people find me from their neurologist and their cardiologist and their other doctors. I had a gentleman who went to all over for 10 years, Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic. He'd seen specialists all over the country, 10 years. He asked his neurologist if he should talk to me, and his neurologist said, yeah, why not? He laughed. He said, that's what the name of the business is. So, but had he learned how to manage his stress and anxiety at an earlier stage in his life, he wouldn't have needed me.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, right? I mean, and this can take down, I mean, we can go down this road on, as far as like, the body with medications, with all of these things, and, all of that. And it's just because in the challenge of it is that I think ultimately, because we live in a society that we want instant gratification. And the key of it is that we want the fastest, the simplest, the easiest way to do it. And sometimes it's just putting in the work.
It's putting in a little work. It's learning new tools for yourself that you can work. Even like I try to teach people how to hypnotize themselves. So when they're there with me, they learn something and walk away with something that they can carry on for the rest of their life, that they can utilize anytime, anywhere to get themselves in the right frame of mind. So it's giving them the tool.
Yeah. And so anyhow, Rob, thank you for the time tonight, and for both you and Don. And here's the thing, like, and I wanted, too, is because, people think of, and I'm guilty of it, right? I think Rob is like the first hypnotist that I've ever met, because then you start thinking it's like Rob's going to get this watch out, and then he's going to start, right, that part of it. But as you guys can see, I've been around him. He is who he is. The guy, I mean, he's just like you and I, right? He's just highly trained in what he does. And I would encourage you, right? If you want to tap into that piece of it, reach out to Rob. He's an open guy. He's an open book as far as that goes. If you got questions around it, please reach out to him.
I love to talk about it. Please feel free. I'm trying to be more active on social media. I'm working on it.
Absolutely. So Rob, hey, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I will see you soon.
Look forward to it.
Absolutely. And hey, so I just want to thank everybody tonight for jumping on, for all of those that that were live with us tonight, and for watching. Share this with somebody that you may know. Obviously it's not just for Master Networks. We're blessed to have amazing people in our organization like Rob and with Don, and just share this, because somebody needs to hear this around goals and around the visualization and around the thinking on that. So thank you. Johnny says, thanks, Rob. Anyhow, I just want to say thank you guys this is our last regional training for Master Networks. We will be kicking off a new year in about 3 weeks. And so stay tuned. We've got some exciting things happening in 2022. New chapters launching. We're going to be doing some more training, getting some of our own folks involved because we have so much talent in our now going on 12 chapters and 200 and 76 members now in Southwest Florida for the Master Networks family. We are growing, and it's because of you guys, because we're doing that. And so keep doing what you're doing, keep showing up, keep sharing the greatness that you guys are doing as members of Master Networks and what this organization does for everybody. So anyhow, just want to say thank you. Have a great Christmas if I don't see you, and a Happy New Year. Can't believe it's already 2022. Let's go out. Let's make 2022 an amazing, amazing year. We'll see everybody soon. Bye-bye.